Tony, another quick day for you. What did you learn? What was the value from Thursday?
We worked a lot on qualifying trim this afternoon. I waited for the worst conditions to be able to actually expose the car, so I had a little bit of a hard time. But car's fast, and towards the end of the day, we work on race setup. So it's going to be interesting what's going to happen tomorrow. Obviously, we had another flip with Newgarden, so. Well, yeah, a little bit. I think I don't know if it's coincidence or not, but we can't take these things for granted. And obviously, Chevy will be the first one to tell us if it's unsafe. But I don't think it's clear that that's the matter. So we need to evaluate. I know IndyCar is going to evaluate overnight. That it's been a debate right now if we can use that piece or not, because the two cars that actually flipped had it on. So if not, it will be interesting, because that's something that it gives us a lot of advantage, but. My opinion, safety always comes first, and that is your life is a lot more important than a qualifying at the Indy 500.
More safe than you did maybe a couple of years ago in one of these cars. Just what's that factor?
I was pretty impressed by the hit. I mean, it was a hard hit, and I feel fine. I mean, I didn't hurt at all. I just hit my hand a little bit, and I think I got a bruise, but other than that, I'm fine. So. Yeah, they're pretty safe. I mean, they're race cars. Obviously, things can happen and go badly, but I think we make these cars as safe as we can. I think the LAR and IndyCar do a great job, and everyone else involved and all the partners trying to make the safest race cars possible. And I feel very safe in them. So we're always looking for more, but I think they're as safe as we can make them right now.
Marshall Pruett, RacerR.com. Thursday practice, another car upside down. Josef Newgarden. Hondas and Chevys look fairly close sometimes when they're all together, but right now the story is, why are these cars flying? I think you had a good explanation today, but maybe there's something more to it.
Well, we just spoke with Tony Kanaan. He said one of the things that they're talking about, not saying there's any conclusions, any evidence, but one of the things the Chevy teams are talking about, and he's sure IndyCar is talking about, is when Elio crashed yesterday, it was on his second lap, his first flying lap, and he was using the long Chevy side pods, the uninterrupted side pods, which look different than the ones they've used on the road and street courses. We had Josef Newgarden crash today on his second lap, essentially his first flying lap per se, with those same long Chevy side pods. Is that causing it? Is there a reason behind it? We know that they work fine, and we've seen the fastest times have been set with guys using those long side pods. So we know that they can go fast and be super stable. Is there something when they're coming up to speed where there's insufficient downforce? Again, pure speculation. I just know that when you have two airborne cars using the same aero kit, it's only natural to look for commonalities, and at least according to TK, and I don't think TK is saying something anyone else within the Chevy camp isn't, they're going to look and say, what's unique between both crashes? At least the side pods are something they can point to. The fact that both have happened on the second lap for both drivers, and those were their first flying lap per se, and both of them in turn one. So few things to pick out. Don't know if any of them add up to a cause.
Right. Well, we should say there's a little. We have a video of Josef Newgarden. He's fine. He got a bruised hand, but his hit was much harder than Elio's. He almost nosed in head first, and then he tips over and slides on his side all the way into turn two. Marshall, there was something else today that they told the teams they had to remove. How does that affect the aero?
Yeah, let me go back real quickly before we get to the wickers. The other difference, too, is we saw with Elio, he spun, glanced, or barely touched the wall, but was essentially completely backwards and took off. With Josef, he spun, hit the wall a ton, and when the back of the car lifted and he then did his flip, he was actually climbing up the wall a little bit. So I think that's maybe important to note that it wasn't an identical case of him being completely backwards, essentially untouched, and then the car taking off. He was backwards, kind of climbed up the wall that certainly exposed the bottom of the car to the air, and then he went and did his thing. As for the change today, learned IndyCar fans will have noticed right off the bat the Chevys went out without the center wicker that goes down the front of the chassis, which was just mandated starting at the Grand Prix of Indy, 10 days ago?
And is that for sideways stuff? Tell them.
Yeah, that tall strip is meant to help the car stay stable in a severe yaw moment. Yaw is a slide. It sounds like yawl, but yaw is just basically the car at an angle. That front strip, the front wicker that runs down the chassis, is meant to basically trip the air and create more stability to keep the car from flipping over or otherwise. Now, this has been the silly part, Robin. Those were off all of the Chevys. And so everybody watching at home and otherwise said, hey, why? Well, I was out in the corner for a couple hours shooting and such. Got back, started asking that question. Couldn't get a straight answer. Spoke with a lot of teams, and they were all very straight, saying, we were just told to take it off. Shortly before we came out here to start running at noon, asked them why. Weren't given a reason. Okay. And these aren't on the record questions I was asking. These are off the record questions. And every single person said, they didn't tell us why. They just said to take it off. Asked IndyCar, took a while to get a quote, finally got a quote from them where they said IndyCar has made that center wicker optional for both manufacturers. Naturally, you then go to both manufacturers, say, hi, could you give us a quote, tell us what you think, blah, blah, blah. Chevy, Jim Campbell was first to respond. Again, didn't give an answer why, which is what we asked for. We also asked IndyCar for the reason why. We knew they came off. We want to know why. Didn't get the answer why. Chevy's Jim Campbell didn't tell us why, but did say they instructed their teams to remove them. Asked Honda, hey, you guys are running them. Why? That's interesting. You'd think if IndyCar asked Chevy to take them off, they'd do the same. Honda was a bit puzzled when we said we heard that they're optional. They said, it's not what we were told. Did a little bit more digging. Honda came back and confirmed they were actually told, no, it is mandatory for the Hondas to run them, and it is mandatory for the Chevys to take them off. So we have an official quote from IndyCar stating that, and this wasn't paraphrased, this was emailed. The quote was emailed. So the words weren't garbled or misunderstood. So again, lack of clarity, straight up lie. I don't know. I just know
Not in racing. People never lie.
I can tell you that this afternoon, a lot of my time and your time has been wasted just trying to get to the simple heart of why. Who? Both? One? The other? I mean, this isn't life or death. We're not curing cancer. It's racing.
Right.
Just tell us why.
Right.
That part we don't know. We just know that according to the one manufacturer, it is not an option.
Gotcha. Okay, Simon Pagenaud's quick at 2:28. And for the second straight day, Carlos Munoz is the fastest Honda. He's at 2:28. But I guess the telltale stuff is Pagenaud ran 2:27 on his 2:28 lap, and Scott Dixon ran 2:27 on his. He's third quick, but they were both without tows. Both of them ran 2:27. So maybe the Chevys by themselves have a little advantage, but maybe not in traffic?
We'll have to see. We can tell. We know for sure the Hondas are quick in traffic. So who's going to win the battle for the pole? Again, we haven't even seen all the cars run in qualifying trim yet. That's another thing. The Hondas today some of them started to jump into qualifying trim. Instead of running the 3 rear wing elements that run the full width of the car, some teams went to the single rear element, basically the qualifying trim. Car was a little spooky, but faster. Takuma Sato was really fast using that. But we'll have to see. I can't tell you who's going to be on the pole. Not that I don't care, but admittedly, we're here for the race. Right. We do know that for 500 miles, these cars spend most of their time in a tow. So the no-tow laps, to me at least, they're interesting, but that's qualifying information. Who's fast, running behind one another, that's race info. We've seen the Chevys and Hondas really close.
All right, it's Marshall Pruett. You can read his story on RACER.com. He's going up to type and feed the videos, and I'm going to get some donuts because I'm hungry. And it's going to rain on us tomorrow and maybe Saturday and Sunday, so we got all kinds of great features and some pretty cool videos you guys watch. Thanks for watching RACER TV and RACER.com. Since they just made RACER TV up, there's no such thing. It's actually RACER.com, but I've only worked here a few years.
The RACER channel is what it's actually called.
It's actually the RACER channel.
The fact that you make up a new name with every video, it's interesting.
And the RACER channel's on YouTube.
It is.
All right, Marshall, thanks, brother.